Hey guys, what's up? It's Iflin here, and today we're going to be talking about the Railjack update. More so my disappointment with Railjack thus far from what I've played. So we're going to be bagging on the Railjack system a little bit. I'm not going to be too overwhelmingly negative. The Railjack system definitely is really fun and cool to play, but there are elements which definitely hold it back and make it a much more frustrating experience than it needs to be. So ever since the Railjack update has came out, usually when a Warframe update comes out, what happens is we get like a big influx of players and they stay around for a little while. With the Railjack update, it was kind of the opposite, and my hypothesis for that was simply because they released Railjack and they said at the Game Awards, hey, Railjack is now in the game, and then, you know, maybe a handful of people logged on, and then they seen that they had to wait an entire week before they can start playing the Railjack content because of the dry dock update or whatever, where, you know, you guys basically had to sit, you had to craft the dry dock, and then you needed to do the Railjack quest to build it, so you had to, you know, go do a mission to get the part for a Railjack, and then you need to craft the Railjack part. You need to also research and get Cephalon Psi and all that stuff. The time gates for this piece of content, in my opinion, definitely ridiculous. Like, it's a new system into the game, and I seen a few people in my Twitch chat whenever we were talking about this. They were saying, well, a new player shouldn't be in a big ass ship, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, well, why not? You know, this is a Space Ninja game where we are sort of like overpowered from the get-go. It's like that power fantasy that the game sells. Why can't everybody have this big-ass ship, and why do we not want players to play this content whenever they first boot up the game? Now, you can make the argument and say, well, you can jump into a Railjack ship from navigation. I don't think it's the exact same experience because you don't own that ship, and like you have to sort of rely on the person owning that ship or the other players getting off the driving seat of the ship before you can actually sit and fully play around with it and fully experience Railjack. So I think that the time gate for Railjack is completely unjust simply because there's a lot more things that you need to go through before you can actually get a Railjack in the first place. Like, you know, putting together a clan and building this room and having enough energy in the clan. And then also the amount of resources that are required to put into every single part before you can even, you know, start the building process for every single Railjack part. Because I can't recall the exact requirements, but I'm pretty sure the exact requirements were ridiculous because it required you to go to so many different planets and get so many different resources and then invest a hefty amount of credits. And for the casual player, the average player, they're not going to have just like a million credits lying around for every single part. You know what I mean? So I think with everything taken into consideration, the time gates and the resource dump that is required for Railjack, on top of everything else that you need to do before you can even start, like, making any form of progress towards your Railjack, absolutely ridiculous, and there's really no excuse for it, and all it does is sort of segment the player base a little bit more than it already is, right? You know, it was different with Archwing because Archwing was, you know, pretty accessible from the get-go. You did one quest, and then you built the Archwing, and it took, like, maybe 6 or so hours a piece, and then you were able to fly, you know, that was cool. But with Railjack, it's like you have to invest an entire week, if not more, depending on how much you play. So, yeah, it definitely lost a lot of briny points from me because I had to wait an entire week before I can even play the content. Now, I only sort of got to jump in and start leveling my Railjack today, and I've got a lot to say about it already, so that should set the tone for the rest of this video, if that makes any sense. Now, the gameplay aspect of Railjack is honestly pretty fun and pretty seamless. It's well put together, just to get the positives out of the way. Like, the Railjack looks cool, the dry dock looks cool. It's also got a new prologue quest that came along with it, which, granted, is time gated. You have to wait for a certain thing to come around, and you have to get to a certain point before you can experience that prologue quest. Not too sure if I would say that that is separate from the Railjack experience or not, because there's a bit where you have to, like, you know, play as your normal Warframe and do something outside of Railjack. It's not too much of a spoiler, in my opinion. But yeah, you know, it's cool that that came along with Railjack and is sort of integrated into it. That's cool, I guess. But you know, it's its own thing, you know, like it's not Warframe. Flying your ship feels a lot different to jumping around in Warframe and murdering everything. You sort of have to like mod your ship around what type of mission you're going into. So like in the lower level missions, you can put on different ship mods. I'm just going to call them mods for the sake of this video. You can put on different ship mods which give you pretty powerful attacks or guns or whatever that allow you to sort of like obliterate entire groups or waves of enemy ships, where later on it gets a little bit more, you sort of have to use this stuff or else you're just going to fail unless you have like a really good team type of thing. So, you know, the balance is probably going to be tweaked with time, and that's the thing with DE. They do tweak things over time, but there's also a lot to be said about, you know, the history of the company. So, for example, you know, they left a lot of systems for dead, and also the fact that, you know, their excuse for removing raids, for example, was that whenever they introduced something into the game that was new, it broke raids. So I'm thinking to myself, well, what's to say the same thing doesn't happen with Railjack, where they sort of hinder their own development, because the more things that they put into the game, the more complicated it is to keep Railjack up to standard. Because let's be frank about this, like, the Railjack system in itself is already very buggy. Like, the first time that I jumped into it, there was a lot of like me not being able to see my my ship whenever I got out of it, went into my Archwing, and it wasn't because my teammates or anything were making the ship invisible with the mod that you can use to make it invisible. I literally just couldn't see the ship for some reason, and it was hard for me to get back into the ship because I hadn't leveled any of my sort of like progression for Railjack, so I couldn't just TP back into the ship, which really annoyed me because, you know, it was my first go at Railjack and I didn't know how to get back into it. So that was frustrating and off-putting, but we haven't even got to the juicy part yet. So overall, the experience of playing around in a Railjack is pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty fun. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's just something different for Warframe. So it provides something for a different audience within Warframe, which I think is respectable, right? But the time gate and the resource dump, keep all of that in mind whenever I show you the numbers and the amount of stuff that you have to invest and farm up. So you can come over to this console, and this console is a bunch of weapons and parts for your Railjack, which you can go ahead and get once they're researched, right? So you have to go through and you have to invest all of your resources into researching all of this stuff. Now, you have to get the Mark III stuff. The Mark I and the Mark II stuff really isn't worth investing into. The Mark III stuff is where it's at, and then on top of that, there's also randomly dropped weapons and other Railjack pieces from the Railjack missions, right? From enemies within Railjack. Now, that would be fine if the stats for those things were static, but they're not. The stats for those things, there's bonuses which are randomly rolled, right? That's where the issue comes up, because you're spending a shit ton of time trying to get the perfect roll for your Railjack piece, right? Some people might like that, some people might hate that. I think that you should find a balance where no matter what you're doing in the game, if you're investing time into the game, you're making progress in some area, right? So let's say I get an engine, right? And then it's got a stat roll of 25% bonus in whatever stat it is, right? So let's say the max stat is 60. Let's say I get a duplicate off that same engine and I've got another bonus stat of 25%. What I should be able to do, and they did this with the Kubelich system, so there's no reason they can't do it here, is merge those two parts together to then increase that bonus and then turn that into one engine, right? So that way I'd have a 50% bonus and I would still be making progress towards the thing that I want. Even though I didn't get necessarily what I wanted from that run, I would still be making progress in that area, if that makes sense. So that's how I think a grinding game should be handled in every single element. They did that with the relic system, where they reward you with the treatises so you can upgrade a relic to hope that you get something better at the end of it, and you're still sort of getting something out of your relic, and you have the choice at the end of your relic to get something different if you didn't get the thing that you wanted from your relic. I think that that is good grinding game design, but how they have it done in Railjack right now just isn't good because it's too frustrating trying to get the best stats. Now, you could say that those stats don't matter. That's entirely up to you, but for the min-maxers out there, which, you know, that's a pretty active community within Warframe, the min-maxers, those guys are going to feel annoyed trying to get the best stat rules on their Railjack parts and stuff like that. And it's not to say that there's a small amount of Railjack parts. There is a lot of different Railjack parts, and I'm going to show you guys that right now. And that's only the beginning of it, right? So we've got shield arrays, we've got engines, we've got a reactor, we've got different types of weapons as well, right? So all of these can have different parts. You can farm up different parts from enemies within Railjack, and they can all have random stat rules, each and every single part. So I don't know if I have any to show off to you guys. Okay, so that's the normal Sigma reactor. That's a Mark III one that I went and picked up from the research. So we've got Apox. We've got different weapons here. If I go ahead and I press tab, you can see I've got a bonus of 52% fire rate on this Lavin Cryophon Mark III. You know, Mark III weapons are basically where it's at. You don't want anything lower than a Mark III. We've got Zetki Apoc. I've got a 39.2% fire rate. Zetki Apoc Mark I doesn't even have a percentage bonus on it. I think only the Mark III stuff can have a randomly rolled stat bonus. This is a Mark I, and this is another Zetki Apoc Mark III. So you see I've got a Zetki Apoc Mark III here, which is 39.2, and then another one which is 44.9. So if I could merge both of those together to get that max of 60%, that would be ideal, right? Because then I would still be making progress towards something, but unfortunately that isn't the case. So even those are, you know, I would say acceptable rules. The 44.9% one, that's all right. But, you know, let's say I was a min-maxer and I wanted to get the best, I would be able to make my way towards getting the best. Even if it had like some sort of diminishing returns with the amount that you upgraded it, it would still be progress, you know? That would be a lot better, at least in my opinion. So, yeah, there's that. So moving on to the avionics. This is basically your modding system for Railjack. This is going to be a little bit hard to explain, but let's go to grid first. So this resource right here called Dirac, this is basically Endo. Now you use Dirac or this Endo to upgrade the mod slots, so then whenever you equip a mod to the mod slots here, the mod that you have equipped gets bonus stats or it goes up to its full potential, right? So you have to spend, I think it was like, it went 200 and then 600 and then 1.8k per slot to, you know, get the full potential. You have to do that for every single slot here. So let me do some math real quick. So what did I say there? It was, Google, please, calculator. 200. Let me see, where's the plus symbol on my phone? Plus 600. And I think it was either 1.8k or 1.2k. I'll give them the benefit of a doubt and maybe like have a bad memory and say 1.2k. So 200, 600, 1,200. That's 2,000 per slot. And how many slots is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 2,000 times by 15 is equal to 30,000 of the Dirac that you need. Now, this Dirac is also used to increase the power of the mods that you have, right? So if I go to stop upgrading here, and I go to avionics, I have to use this Dirac to actually upgrade my mods here. So Battleforge right here, I have to upgrade 20 Dirac, and then it scales up just like it will with Endo, 40, so on and so forth. Now, you get this Dirac by dismantling these things right here, right? The randomly rolled stuff that you get. So if I go to the Zetki Apoc Mark 1, because I'm never going to use Mark 1 stuff, I can go ahead and I scrap it for, you know, the Dirac, right? And then that adds to my stuff. So I can use that to now upgrade either those slots, or I can use it to upgrade the mods. Now, you can buy the Dirac with Platinum. I think it's like 50 Platinum for 1,000. That's what I did, just to get all these slots maxed out, because, you know, I figured to myself that the grind for Railjack is looking to be ridiculous if I want to have like a min-max ship, so I might as well do this to sort of lessen the grind on myself. So I went ahead and I did that, and that's basically the modding system explained to you guys. It's not to mention the amount of stuff that you have to go through to get the best mods, right? So if we go back in the avionics, right, we've got these different tabs right here of different types of mods. So we have Vidar, we have Zetki, and we've got Lavin. Basically like your polarities, except we don't have polarities. It's just different names, or so different versions. Zetki, I've been told, is the best type of mod that you can get because it's got the most upgrade slots at the bottom. So then it's got the highest stat bonuses and stuff like that. So, you know, this one, for example, increase all turret damage by 60% when hull is below 20%. I could upgrade that and then get like a pretty hefty bonus out of that. And then whenever you look at the likes of Vidar, it's got like 1 point under a mod or something like that. And then you look at like not Vidar, Lavin, we got 1. Sometimes we have a lot more. Can I actually upgrade this? 1.2k to upgrade that. So, you know, I've got a little bit more grinding to do, and there's a lot of different mods and stuff that I need to get so I can realize the full potential of my Arcwing. So it's gonna take a lot of, like, you know, just playing really to find out what is the best out of the three. So I'm not sure if you can get like a Vidar bulkhead and then a Zetki bulkhead and then a Lavin bulkhead. I'm not too sure if that is 100% possible, but if it is, then it's even more work to figure out like what is the best in-slot avionics or Railjack mods, right? So that's that system explained. Kind of a pain in the ass, but I think that whenever people sort of like figure out what the best stuff is, we'll have a more sort of refined path to go down to figure out like, okay, where do I need to go to get this mod or this avionic or whatever, and then what is the exact one that I need? Is it Zetki? Is it Vidar? Is it whatever? And then, you know, it'll be a lot more streamlined and straightforward whenever those tutorials and stuff start coming out for the general player base, right? So that's that. Your payload, this is basically craftable items mid-mission. So you've got your Revelite right here, and this is what you're going to use to repair the ship. You've got munitions. These are basically like a special torpedo that you can shoot with middle mouse button. Flux energy. Battle avionics, which is your battle mods. So if we go back to avionics right here, we've got a battle tab right here. So I've got an ability called Seeker Volley. It's going to consume that flux energy to then do that stuff, right? And when we have these dome charges are consumed by forward artillery. Not too sure what that is. Haven't used it yet, but it's there. And you have to invest the resources that you find whenever you're piloting your Railjack to craft these stuff mid-missions, because there's a thing at the back of the ship that you go to. You use your little Assassin's Creed Hidden Blade thing to like bring down like a little box, and then you're going to craft these things in this box, and then it's going to have a cooldown. You have to wait before you can craft more. You can then refine all of the resources that you got on your Railjack mission to get more resources out of it, but then if you do refine those, then you don't have the resources needed to craft these individual things that you need when you're playing your Railjack mission. So, you know, if one random guy comes into your lobby and starts refining all of your stuff, you're probably going to fail the mission because you're not going to have enough Revelite to repair your ship if you get hit or something like that. So that's the downside of playing public, because people can just go and waste all of your resources on stuff that you don't need. So there's that. I'm making it sound worse than it really is, because if you're playing this with friends or you're playing it solo, that's not that big of a deal. But if you do happen to get into that scenario where you do have somebody who is like just a complete idiot, then they're going to waste all of your stuff. So moving on to intrinsics. Now, intrinsics are probably going to take me a long time, because you should be able to tell by just looking at the bottom of the screen. You can see that the more you upgrade, then the more it's going to cost to get the next level, right? So I've got tactical level 4, I've got piloting level 3, gunnery level 4, and then engineering level 2. So the engineering costs 4 intrinsics, and the piloting costs 8. Now this is basically like the affinity system for Railjack. The more experience you gain, the more intrinsics that you get. So there's probably things that you can do to speed up the intrinsic farming process. I haven't figured that out for myself yet, but it's probably still going to take a while regardless, because as you keep on investing into your intrinsics, let's just go ahead and level up my tactical there, it more or less doubles the amount that you need to invest to get to the next level, which really sucks. I think it should be a flat amount every single time. Then that way it's not like asking for too much of your time. So let's say, for example, it took me an hour to do a few Earth missions today, and I was only able to upgrade from my tactical level 1 to level 4. and then I couldn't upgrade anymore. So, you know, I invested an hour of my time, and I was only able to go up those 4 levels, and then to go up 1 level, I would need to do the exact same amount. You know, I'd need to spend that hour in that Earth mission again. You're probably going to get more intrinsics from playing higher level missions, of course, but from what I've heard, the higher level missions, especially solo, are very hard to do, especially if you don't have the right gear, which if you're leveling your intrinsics, you probably don't have the right gear. So it's gonna be a very long slog is what I'm gonna say. So moving on to this last tab right here, customization. This really annoyed me today because I had to do this 3 times. I was getting a cool look down, which is the one that I have right now, and then for some reason it would keep on resetting, so I'm reluctant to actually even be on the screen. General critique of the UI, I really dislike the UI. It took me a while on stream today, like maybe like an hour or 2, to figure out like everything that was going on this page, and if it's taking me that long, I can't imagine how long it's taking someone else. So, you know, that's that. This AI as well, not that good, because like I was sitting there and my chat was telling me, Flynn, scrap it, and I'm like, guys, how do I scrap it? And I had to hover over that, so I was like, well, I didn't know that. You know, there should just be a button down here that says scrap, and there should be one that says, you know, repair or whatever. So yeah, this is the other thing which I haven't even touched on yet. So whenever you find one of these parts out in the open, right, you get a randomly rolled weapon or Railjack part off of an enemy, you can't just use it from the get-go. You have to repair it because you're salvaging it off that ship, right? So you have to repair it. Now, to repair it, you have to invest resources into it, and these resources are a pain in the ass to get. You have to invest 12,000 titanium. 12,000 titanium to get this one part. I've been playing Railjack all day. I've got 14,000. I streamed the game for 6 hours today, and I was mainly playing Railjack. So, you know, yeah, I only got 14,000. I can basically put together one part, and then I have to do this for, what, free weapons here, and then free other parts? So that's 6 times. So that's like 15,000 times by 6, if you're rounding it up to the 15k that some of the parts are. So that's ridiculous. That's a lot of time. Casual players probably aren't going to be able to do that. Like, I know that there's a lot of people out there asking for hardcore veteran content, but hardcore veteran content doesn't mean making ridiculous resource sinks. You know what I mean? Like, hardcore veteran content is all about introducing challenges or challenging enemies and stuff like that. Like, some sort of challenge, something to put the player's skills to the test, like swapping in and out of operator mode, or swapping between different, you know, elemental damage types, like having a cool gear setup or something, like having your primary, like corrosive and fire, and then having like viral on your pistol or something like that. Just putting the player's knowledge and overall skill to the test. So I don't think that putting these big resource sinks and these time gates in the way is the way that Warframe should be going. So yeah, on top of that, you also have a capacity to how many of these things that you can hold. So I've got 3 different parts here, and I need to, you know, basically either choose to scrap these or repair them before I hit that 30 capacity, right? So you can only hold on to 30 salvaged Railjack parts before you have to either decide to scrap them or repair them. And if you're dumb like me, finding out how to scrap stuff might be difficult for you. I'm not saying that everybody is dumb, but I'm saying I'm dumb. And yeah, let me just go ahead and rank something up here. Let's do this one because it costs a decent bit. I've got 3 left. Okay, so I was mentioning that Railjack is a pretty seamless process, and I want to demonstrate that before I end this video because it is already 23 minutes long, so I might as well keep on going. To get into your Railjack, you come into your dojo, you come down to this little platform, and you press X. And then you go for this cool animation, you hop on in, and now you're in your Railjack. Cephalon Sai likes to talk to you a lot. He's pretty cool. It gets annoying after a while, but it's crucial to have his voice acting on, simply because he's going to tell you whenever there is a hull breach on your ship, which you're going to have to run around and repair with your Omni. Now, whenever you're docked in your dry dock, you can go ahead and you can change your gear on the arsenal here, and then there's another thing back here at the back of the ship, which is going to trigger like a little cinematic whenever you you know, first get into your Railjack, which is kind of cool. And then I was talking about the refining thing, which you go back to craft resources that you're going to need while you're piloting your Railjack. This is all the way back here, and there's 4 stations, so it's called your forge, and you just press X on this. So let's go ahead and jump into a free room for Railjack, and I'll talk about the resource farming process as well, because the resource farming process is also pretty bad. So, I sounded like Brozime there, holy shit. Go to navigation, and you want to go to, I'm going to go to free flight. I can't get resources in free flight, but I can still explain the process. So we're just going to go ahead, jump in. You're going to see this cool cinematic. I'm going to skip it. So we just kind of just blast on into the mission. And next thing you know, we are going to be there. So this is basically like a loading screen that you can still run about in. Really cool in my opinion. I think that they should do this for the rest of the game too. But yeah, here we are. We are in space, and you can just hop onto your Railjack now and go ahead and fly about. It's really cool. I'm not gonna lie. Like, they did a good job. That's seamless. That's awesome. That's epic, and that's definitely like that vision of Warframe that DE Steve is talking about. Just trying to integrate that whole seamlessness into the rest of the game, I think, should be their goal, and then it'll be one of the most refined free-to-play games on the market, or like ever in the world. Like, it probably already is, but if they went that step forward, like, it would be more or less unbeatable, and it would set the standard again. So that's what I like about DE. They're innovative in that sense. Like, they strive for, you know, ambitious, innovative things, which is really cool. But just sometimes their execution is really crap whenever it comes to certain things. So if we run around our ship, you can see that there's a lot of things that I can't use until I level up my I forget what it's called already, but it's the thing that you keep on investing into, and it keeps on increasing the cost. That thing, which is basically like little perks that you can use whenever you're in your Railjack. Basically like piloting upgrades, right? That allows you to boost, allows you to teleport back to the ship, allows you to get into the catapult, allows you to get into certain guns in the ship, etc, etc, etc. So that thing there. But other than that, you can go ahead and you can jump out of your Railjack and go into your Archwing. Archwing combat is kind of ass. You're sort of limited at the minute to using the Amisha, simply because the one makes you more or less immune to all sources of damage, and you're going to need that because the balance within Railjack is pretty shit. I would say that to begin with, your Archwing weapon, I'm using the Cygnus and modding it for status, is going to deal more damage than your Railjack. So if you want to like just back your Railjack up and then get out and shoot the ships that way, and then use your Amisha's abilities to slow the tiny ships down and kill them that way, you're probably going to get missions done faster, at least to begin with. And then whenever you start getting upgrades on your Railjack, things will get a lot easier. It also helps out a lot if you've got a crew with you as well. So, you know, that's the thing to keep in mind too. But whenever it comes to resource grinding, Railjack missions kind of work like bounties. You get rewarded the same way. There's no bonus goals, which I think that they should implement. Like, maybe making it so you're not allowed to spend a certain amount of Omni, or you're not allowed to take a certain amount of damage, or you complete it with a time limit, and then that way you get rewarded with bonus resources. That would kind of like, you know, lessen the grind a little bit, because, you know, like, you look at those titanium costs or something like that, like, you want to get 2 rules at your mission reward in case you get like that big cache of titanium or something like that, because that would just take a load off your shoulders, at least in my opinion. Because resource grinding, you basically go on your Archwing or you go on your Railjack and you go around and you shoot little glowing rocks and little glowing containers, and then you pick them up and then you go back to your ship. So I'm able to teleport, lucky me, because I've upgraded my stuff. I can teleport back to my ship, and then I have to go all the way back. If I like really want to maximize the amount of resources that I'm getting from every single run, I have to make sure that I'm not going over the cap for my forge, which you're going to see that it does have a cap. Anything that goes over the cap goes straight into your inventory. But if you refine it in the forge, you basically get a little bit of extra, which is, you know, to my understanding. So you got 200 forge capacity. You can pick up your carbides. You can pick up your copernicks. You can pick up your cubic diodes. You can pick up your pustules and whatnot. And again, you have to use this to craft all these resources for your Railjack mid-mission, just to sort of top yourself off. But then, again, you refine it so then you can use those resources outside of Railjack to upgrade your Railjack. So, you know, if they hadn't made it so that these resources were separate, so you got the resources to upgrade your Railjack, and then you also got resources mid-mission to, you know, sort of sustain your Railjack, would have been cool. But it's the fact that you sort of have to spend these resources to keep your Railjack alive mid-mission, which in my opinion kind of sucks. And the fact that, you know, players can just come down here and refine it on you and ruin the mission for you, that also kind of sucks as well. It feels like it wasn't thought out for your casual and public lobbies whatsoever. Like, I just don't feel like this update was thought out for casual players, you know what I mean? Because it's like that time gate, that resource dump, everything about it, like, it just stops the casual player from jumping in and having fun with the new content that you added into the game, which I just think is really bad, a really bad decision. Because it's like you advertise this at what's it called, the Game Awards, right? You say, hey, space combat's in our game now, it's Railjack, you get your own spaceship. But then they log in and it's like, oh, but you have to wait a week. How would you feel? You like, I don't know, I would just be like, well, you know what, I've got a job, I've got, you know, school or something to do. I'm not going to be able to upkeep this. I'm going to have to log in the afternoon just to get this timer going to play the content that I logged in to play. You know, and a week goes by, and next thing you know, you're playing your favorite competitive game like Rainbow Six Siege or League of Legends again. And it's like, oh, well, you know, you jump in, you play Railjack. You may or may not like it, because that's the thing. You don't know if you like it yet. And then you're like, was it worth all that time that I invested? Was it worth all the time that I waited? I don't know. It's up to the player, right? So, you know, it's cool. It's definitely cool. And with time, I think that they can turn this something into really, really good. Because it's clear that the technology is there. In the sense of, like, making it seamless. In the sense, like, you have these big battles and stuff like that. But it just needs more. It needs more work. It needs more thought. It needs more effort. But what they have is really solid, apart from the resource sinks and the time gates and all that stuff. Like, it's cool, but it's also disappointing at the same time, which it's left me a little stuck. Like, what is my conclusion whenever it comes to this, you know? Like, my conclusion is that they need to get their shit together and think about, you know, the amount of resources they're realistically expecting players to farm up, and then also, like, how do we cater to the casual players as well? And I know that's something that people don't like hearing, like catering to the casual players, but it's true. You know, like, there's no reason that not everybody should be able to jump in and experience Railjack, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just, like, underestimating people, and maybe they've got more time in their hands than I think, and maybe we're all great at the game now, but I don't know. I just think that they should have maybe thought about it twice, you know, like, the amount of time and resources they expected people to invest into this update, because even myself, I was questioning, like, is this going to be worth it, like, after this week is up? And, you know, I enjoy it because it's Warframe. I enjoy it because it's innovative. I enjoy it because it's ambitious. But I can't deny the fact that some of the choices that they made were straight up just really, really dumb, you know? And I think that that's all I can say about it. I need to progress more whenever it comes to the overall Railjack star chart progression, right? I've got Earth done, and I've started a little bit on Saturn, and I've experienced the Void, right? And I've also done the time-gated event prologue thing, so that was cool as well. But it's the fact that it's a time-gated event prologue thing. It's got a really cool tile set, and you get a really cool thing from it, and there's some really cool lore things that come out of it as well. But it's the fact that it's time-gated, it only happens at a specific time, and there's not much more substance to that kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth. The other thing is, like, whenever I talk about not much more substance, there's also not a lot of substance whenever it comes to the missions within Railjack, which is also a problem that they had with Arcwing, right? It's like every Arcwing mission felt kind of the same, and I can almost say the same for Railjack, right? Like, there's a few variations here and there, but it is more or less the same. You know what I mean? So it's not like they sat and they came up with multiple different ship designs for the interior of the Grineer ships and the exterior and stuff like that. It's like every single inside of a Grineer cruise ship is the exact same, and every single mission kind of feels like a glorified Railjack exterminate, right? So there's that. I think that with time, when they add more content to Railjack, it's going to be a lot more fun system, but they need to get the resource sink, like, fixed. Like, it shouldn't be 15,000 titanium to get a piece of gear. You know, like, if we were talking, like, polymer bundles, sure, but this new resource, which you have to, you know, get into a Railjack, complete the Railjack mission, and then get into an Archwing and sort of float around in dead space to collect, it's kind of difficult. So they need to figure out a way to fix that problem before they can really think about investing heavily into, you know, more Railjack content. Because I would like to see Corpus ships. I would like to see the interior of a Corpus ship. I would like to see Corpus missions. I would like to see the Kuvalich being integrated in the Railjack. I would like to see the Squad Link stuff happen. But in the current state of Railjack, it needs to be looked at. You know, like those resource sinks need to be fixed, and the accessibility overall of Railjack and its upgrades, it just needs to be fixed as well. There's also a lot of bugs and stuff that I haven't really got to touch on in this video, but this has been 35 minutes long, and I don't think that I can rant anymore, otherwise my voice is going to give out. It's got a lot of potential, but I feel like we say that a lot about a lot of stuff that comes in the Warframe, and I think that with my channel moving forward, I'm going to be more critical of the stuff that DE put into the game, because they're not an indie developer anymore. They are definitely the top dogs of free-to-play, and, you know, I want them to push themselves that little bit more to set the standard for more, you know, AAA and free-to-play titles, because you can't deny that the quality of Warframe up to this point has been insane, and they don't cease to, they never cease to impress, even whenever they disappoint. So yeah, I thought that I was going to be disappointed by the Railjack update because, you know, ship combat was never my thing, but I find myself enjoying the core gameplay, the piloting the ship, the getting out into the Railjack, the repairing and all that stuff. Might get boring after a while, but, you know, I think that they've done a good job this far with some pretty big fuck-ups as well. So, yeah, that is going to be it for this video, guys. If you liked it, go ahead, hit that like button below. If you disliked it, hit dislike. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. Subscribe for more Warframe content. I'll see you guys in the next video.